Hello, good evening and welcome to my humble model railway. This is a quick video just revisiting County of Monmouth, my Hornby Hawksworth 460 county class. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because I've looked online and I was trying to find County of Cornwall. Being a West Country person, I like the idea of Cornwall. And being part Welsh, I like the Welsh names too. So that's why I bought Monmouth. But I cannot find any. There are no Hornby. There don't appear to be any Hornby Railroad versions available online at the moment. But I have seen still available some of these older versions. This is the older versions from the early 2000s, okay? And what I would say is that if you cannot find the railroad version on sale anywhere, you might find one of these worthy of consideration. Okay? Much earlier model. But there are some benefits to this particular model, which I shall illustrate to you as much as I can. Now, one of the things which is different, and it probably sounds trivial, but the window there, just get my, just point to the the window. That hasn't got the surround on it on the railway, on the railroad version. Okay, so it looks a lot more realistic. If you look at pictures of these locomotives in service, they have got that surround on the window. Okay. Now the nameplate is also the straight nameplate along with the splasher. That's how this one differed from the earlier Great Western locomotives. Now another thing that you'll find, I mean you'll get this on probably on both versions, but you've got the copper chimney, safety valve cover and the whistles there. But something you don't get on the railroad version as far as I'm aware is this. I'll try and bring it closer as we can see. And we'll see if we can get this, see if we can move this just to illustrate it to you. There, you can see it right there clearly now. See if we can get it to move for you. There we are, it's moving. A full plate between the locomotive and the tender. I've only seen these on any of my models on these counties, these original counties built by Hornby in the early 2000s. You need to go careful when you actually join the locomotives together because the full plate can get trapped against the tender. You need to make sure that it's lifted up slightly before you actually push the two together. The tender actually clips onto the locomotive. Now, the actual details that you see are quite fine. You've got the lovely separately fitted rail going across there. The valve gear and the cylinders are quite well represented. I would go careful how you handle this part here though, if you have one of these. They can pop out, okay? Quite easily put back in again, but they can pop out, okay? You've got your valve, your valve gear, your sort of cylinders there, nicely lined, like I say. The buffers are solid, okay? They're not sprung like you might find on other locomotives, but I don't think the railroad one is. Then we're going to take a look at the front of the locomotive. There we are, we're focusing nicely now to be able to see everything there. And it's got the number on there, 1020, 1000 class, counties. Got the little hook in the front of the buffer being there. The sting pipes. As I said, the solid buffers. But I think these buffers, as far as I can tell, are metal. Okay, so that's a nice touch. And then we're going to move on to the other side of the locomotive now, so you can see the differences again between one side and the other. There's some pipe work along there, quite nicely done, and again the handrail all separately fitted. Very, very nice indeed. And again you can see the window surround picked out there, the route marker, and the tender, all welded tender I think it is, because it's flat sided with no rivets. And then we come on to the back of the locomotive. And again, those steps I think are part of the moulding, they're not separately fitted parts. But again, I don't think you get that on the railroad version either anyway, you don't get separately fitted parts there with those. And then you've got the steam vacuum pipe there again, the hook. And again, the buffers appear to be metal, but they're not sprung. And I think from here now you can see possibly, if we can get a good view into the tender, get that turned around for you to see. Just you can see there, the coal load is not a full coal load. It shows about half a coal load, which again is far more realistic. If you're thinking of this locomotive, say, going full tilt, say, somewhere between, say, Weston-super-Mare and Taunton, or Weston-super-Mare and Bridgewater, it'll be on the flat ground, you know, really going for it. And then when it got to anywhere like Cornwall, on the hills of Newton Abbot, the again, coal will be shoveled like crazy to keep this locomotive running on time, and you wouldn't have a full coal load. Something I've added to this is, I don't know if we can see very well inside there, and we'll see if we can bring my lamp a little bit closer. I've got a lamp over on the side here, which might give it to shed more light if we get closer. I fitted the loco crew there, okay, you can see that quite clearly now, the loco crew. You don't get a painted cab on this, I don't think you do on the railroad version either of this. Okay, and again you can see that the tender, again, is not completely full. So altogether, in my opinion, this is quite a nice model, considering I picked up for, I think, about 60 quid, I think it was, maybe 50 or 60 quid, okay? Very nice model. Came from someone's personal collection. Now, what we'll talk about before we put it on the tracks as well is something about the construction. Oh, there's our group of sailors there on the platform waiting to go away to their join their ship. So they're probably waiting to go to Dartmouth, which is where the Naval College is. And the model of this is our 2211 March 2001, okay? So we're talking about a 20-year-old locomotive here. And you can clearly see on here, we got the Type H Ringford motor, perfectly serviceable, so you can get this. A lot of people say they don't like Ringford motors, I don't mind them. You can change the brushes and the springs. Right, so you've got the later skew wound motor which goes in the other county. Yeah, it's a fantastic motor, honestly, it really is. I mean, and again, a lot of things in life are swings and roundabouts, plus and minus points. But that particular kind of motor is not user serviceable. Okay, that might be important to you if you like to repair your own motors. Now we're going to go on to the thing there. You can see a railing ramp there, and I'm hoping we'll get a successful railing of the locomotive. We'll just see. Okay, and we'll just check that the coaches are in fact on the track as well properly. And then we're going to give this one a little run around the track for you. Okay, so we'll just take a look now. Fine. Right, let's see if we can give her a little run. Just move the controller back a little bit out of view. And away we go. And we're away. Got the right away. Not a bad little runner. I mean, we're talking about a 20-year-old locomotive here, of course. With the ring-filled type pancake motor, as they call it, or somebody will call it a pancake motor. I think it runs quite well. I mean, it's inside the locomotive, so it's not tender driven. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't get such a realistic toll out. And I think these are quite worthy of consideration. I mean, if you can't find the railroad version of this, and there are quite a nice little variety of in this version here from the early 2000s. Now like I say, you've got some advantages. You can easily, once you've got the body off, you can easily get at the motor, and you can get at the actual gears for lubrication. In fact, I gave this one quite a nice little little service in an oiling. I think it already had all that anyway before before they sent it to me. But I like to check and just go around it with a little oil can, do whatever, my little. And you see now she's running very, very well. Now we'll give you a little bit of history of these. I've given you history before, but if you've never seen one of my videos before, I like to give a little bit of history. These are the very, very last of a dynasty of 260 twin-cylinder locomotives, which began with the Saints class, the Halls, the Grangers and the Manors, and then these counties came along as the last of them. They were intended to be as powerful as a castle. Now, one of the reasons for their design, the way they were designed, was that they were designed during wartime. And again, by the very, very last of the chief mechanical engineers of the Great Western Railway, Frederick William Hawksworth. He took over from Charles Benjamin Collett in 1941, and then he retired shortly after nationalisation. And I think if it hadn't been for nationalisation, he had plans for quite a lot more locomotive designs for the Great Western Railway. Of course, once nationalisation had come about, even though there were still some Great Western Railway locomotives built, of course there were then the standard class locomotives, which were designed by people like Robert Riddles from 1950 onwards. But coming back to our nice little Hornby locomotive here, as you can see, running perfectly well around the track. Like I say, I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with them. I mean, they're slightly a bit more noisy perhaps than the modern one. I mean, if the only demonstration I can give you is the Railroad County, which is a 440. We've got a similar motor mechanism, but this is good enough for my use. So I picked this up at the beginning of the lockdown. I consider myself quite lucky to have got this in the condition that it was in. I mean, the box was slightly faded, but the actual locomotive is actually in pristine condition, as you can see. No parts missing, nothing's fallen off. And if you ask me the question, well, is it worth buying second hand? I'd say absolutely. I mean, one of the brand new locomotives I bought. So I think I bought about 4 brand new locomotives as opposed to second hand. One of those was actually broken when it arrived, even though it was meant to be brand spanking new, or said it was brand spanking new. It arrived broken, and all of these second hand locomotives have arrived perfect. So yes, these are well worthy of consideration. I say, when you pick up the locomotive, go careful with the valve gear and everything else. Try and pick up by its running plate. I've done it before, and we've all done it. We picked them up wrong, you know, and I did actually displace part of the valve gear, and not drastic. It's all popped back into place. It was easy enough. I did it in seconds, but it's worth watching out for on these. But I've had many happy hours of pleasure with these particular locomotives. As you can see, looking around, they're very nicely detailed locomotive, and I think the actual shell is the same as what you find on the Hornby Railroad version. I think the Hornby Railroad version, what they've done is they've completely changed the mechanism to put in one of their modern 5-pole motors. I think it's called a skew wound motor or something like that. Well, this has got the, as you saw from the leaflet there, the Ringford motor. Now I think I've got a loose wire there. I've just moved the controller and the train stopped. I just went to pick up the controller and the train stopped, so I think I might have a loose wire to look at some point. No, false alarm. It's working fine. I thought a wire had come out for a second. And even the motor gears, I mean, they're accessible once you've got to unscrew the engine from the chassis. I think there's one screw that holds that on. You've got to go careful with the wire and everything else, but I mean, it's quite easy to get at. You can lubricate everything there. Quite serviceable. And we're going to give our other locomotive a run in just a moment, just to make this all complete. And then we can sign off. I mean, it's a bit of a shorter video tonight, hopefully. Now, there's another locomotive of the same period. Again, it's not a Hawksworth County. It's the castle of this period. Again, they're built in the same way, in that they basically share the same mechanism. Okay, and it's over there. And it's Castle Class Spitfire, okay? Again, a very nice model. Worthy of consideration if you can find one. Again, bearing in mind today the price of what the castle is, you're talking about, I think it's about getting off for 200 quid, isn't it? Something like that. Probably over that now, I should imagine. Whereas again, I picked this one up for about 50 quid, I think it was, off the internet. Again, in the same livery. It looks perfectly nice in its lovely BR green livery there. Late crest, of course. And again, it runs just the same as this one. I think the only difference is where the actual cylinders go. The placement of the cylinders here are a little bit further back on there, because obviously you're talking about a 4-cylinder arrangement on there, as opposed to the Hawksworth County being a 2-cylinder arrangement. Let's get back to our locomotive here. Just watch it whiz past the signal box. I'll watch it going round the railway in different places. So we're going to watch it thunder through the station over here now. We've got no goods train on tonight. I mean, I put the goods shed out and the okay, now we're going to finish things here If you like what you see, press like, press subscribe. Thank you very, very much for watching, and I shall bid you farewell and good night.